Good morning, everyone. What's up? What's up? What's up? Hope you guys are doing well. Today is October the 21st. It's a Tuesday today. You can see the overall markets gravitated towards all time highs. We kind of talked about the possibility of it moving back up and towards that level. If we could get back above really Wednesday's highs of last week on the QQQ, that was key on the NASDAQ. And then you can see SPY slowly pushing back towards the upside here as well. That's going to be the next one to gravitate back up and towards that all-time highs level. We'll talk about the indices here in a bit. And of course, go over the rest of the tech names as well. Before we do that, what's up, everyone? Good morning. Good morning, Victor. B Roots. Before we get started, can we talk about the Blue Jays? I'm not sure how many Blue Jay fans we have in the chat, but that was a crazy game. But yeah, let's go Jays. It's actually going to be a really interesting series, the Dodgers versus Jays. My favorite player is Shohei Ohtani, but I mean, I'm Canadian, so I got to root for the Blue Jays. Yeah, what's up, everyone? B Roots, Willie, Andreas, Jeff, I am, KO, Monty, Nontali. Good morning, Brian, Jen, Captain, I am, Juan, Sinna, Hartik, Majid. Yeah, yesterday as well, there was a bunch of outages. Robinhood was down. Weeble was down. Yeah, so there's a lot of outages for a bunch of brokers. So whenever you have broker issues, it's a lot more difficult to trade. Interactive brokers is usually fine. It's nice and reliable. It's always usually reliable as well. So, yeah, interactive brokers is good. There's a bunch of other options, Fidelity, right? Schwab. There's a bunch of other brokers that are good as well. Even though sorry, Robinhood and Webull are free, but that doesn't always mean it's better. But it is. I swear, every single time Robinhood, I personally don't use Robinhood, but every single time you need it, it always, I wouldn't say it fails, but the times you do want it to work, it doesn't work. What's up, everyone? Good morning. Deuce, Robert, Daniel, Chris, Todd. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. Let's get right into the charts coming into today. The Zoom It program. Yeah, the Zoom It program is awesome. If you are able to get used to it and get good at it, it's so fun drawing the kind of these like lines on the screen. Convinced Shohei's not from this play. I agree. This guy's an animal. Especially last game is absolutely crazy. Okay. Let's go on to the major indices. Before we do that, let me actually pull up the Forex factor here as well. Okay, so yeah, coming into today, or sorry, coming into the rest of the week, as you can see, we don't have too many bread folder news events. So the only thing that we have is going to be on Friday. This is going to be core CPI. And then we also have the flash services, which is at 9:45 on Wednesday. The main thing that we have today is going to be Netflix earnings, which is after close. Let's see if I can pull this up. Let me do this. So yeah, the main thing coming into today is going to be Netflix earnings. So we have earnings season. Now you can see Netflix after close today. And then we have a really big one tomorrow as well, which is going to be Tesla after close. And then of course, we have a lot of other names that are reporting as well. Intel, and we have a bunch of smaller ones. So keep this in mind. If you are trading any names coming up, earnings season is right around, or actually earnings season is right now. So we have a bunch of earnings right now and a bunch of earnings coming up. So keep this in mind if you are trading any sort of names. That there is going to be elevated IV. So you have to be a little bit cautious, especially if you are holding, because there's going to be a big move implied with earnings coming up right around the corner. So with that out the way, we have the red folder news. Nothing's changed. We have earnings right as well. Nothing's changed on that side. Now let's go on to the major indices coming into market open. Let's actually first start off on the ES and SPY, and then we'll make our way down into the Qs and then the rest of the names here as well. So coming into yesterday, the key levels that we have marked out was really our Tuesday's highs. So our Tuesday's highs, we mentioned if you can get above this key level, you can potentially see a move up in towards our last week's highs, which would be our Wednesday's highs of last week. So we end up having this nice move towards the upside. Now the next levels that I have marked out is really our previous all-time highs. Plus we have our Wednesday's highs, which is going to be key of last week. So as you can see currently, the NQ is actually already gravitated back up and towards our all-time highs key pivot point. Yesterday, our key level was our Wednesday's highs of last week, our 25,100. Once we're able to get back above this level, we end up having a nice push towards the upside, all the way back into really the area that we broke down from. So this is a very key area on the NQ. Now let's just go back onto the SPY coming into today. So for the SPY in the ES coming into today, the key levels that we're going to have marked out is your 6760. So this is our last week's key pivot level. You can see yesterday, nice kind of push towards the upside above your Tuesday's highs, and now we're maintaining above this Wednesday's high key pivot level. So as you can see here, coming to market open, what we like to see for some more upside is the hold of your 6760 for a potential push up and towards our all-time highs. Another possible scenario, break above now, it's going to be your after hours highs for this continued push up and towards your 6800. So these are the two scenarios that I like to see for at least longs towards the upside. I will look for a potential mean reversion here in the overall markets if we break underneath your 6760. So the market could get back underneath the 6760s. If we do, right, potentially we can see a little bit of a mean reversion in the overall markets, and we can see a potential push back down in towards our Tuesday's highs here for the ES. Most likely this will not occur. This will only happen if the NQ rejects off your all-time highs key pivot point. So since we do have clear objectives on the ES towards our all-time highs, we're now just going to be looking for the hold, as I mentioned, of our 6760 for this continued push higher. If you look at the SPY chart, the key levels that I have marked out, let me actually just refine these now. What I can have marked out here is going to be your all-time highs or your news candle high at your 673. And then other key pivot levels that I have marked out, let me actually just refine this. We can just mark this out, which is now just going to be our Wednesday's highs of last week, our 670. So for SPY coming into today, what we like to see, maintain above your 670, which is just your last week's key pivot level. If you can maintain above this level, we can look for this continued push up and towards our all-time highs. If we get above your pre-market highs and our previous day highs, potentially we can see another continued push up and towards our 674 here as well, which is going to be our all-time high. So keep an eye out on the SPY coming into today for a hold of your 670 for continuation higher. The only way you're going to be bearish is one of two scenarios, either the rejection off of your all-time highs, which in my opinion is going to be a little bit more difficult, or you like to see it underneath. Now it's going to be your Wednesday's highs, which is now your 670. Potentially you could be looking for intraday bearish price action if we get underneath this key level. So 670 is going to be key coming into today here on the SPY chart. And then for the ES, it's going to be your 6760s. And then for the NQ, let's go into this chart since we technically are gravitating up and towards our all-time highs key pivot. So as you can see here, once we broke above this key level where we have multiple touches, the next logical level is going to be back up and towards our all-time highs, which we ended up moving nicely. Now for the NQ, what we like to see is the reaction that we have off this level, which is your 25,360. If we can break above this level, hold above this level, we can see some continuation towards the upside coming to market open. If you gravitate up and towards this level, reject off this level, potentially you can see a little bit of a mean reversion and all-time highs rejection and push right back towards the downside. So keep this in mind if you are trading the NQ coming into market open, right? Similar thing here to the QQQ. The exact key level that we're going to have marked out is just going to be our previous all-time highs pivot point, which you can see there's a nice reaction yesterday. So coming into today, the exact same thesis. What I personally like to see is the break above your previous day highs hold for this continued push towards the upside. So you can be looking for the hold above your 612.60s for this continuation higher. Another possible scenario is if it consolidates right off the bat, you could be looking for the reclaim. I would like this trade a lot as well. If you can potentially pull back coming to market open, you look for the reclaim for a push towards the upside right off the bat. What you do want to be cautious of is if price kind of pushes right off the bat, consolidates, and gets back underneath your news candle high along with their previous day highs, you have to be a little bit cautious of a potential kind of reversal back down in towards 611. And then if it gets below your pre-market lows, then I'm going to flip a little bit more bearish intraday. But if you kind of just reject off this all-time highs level, it's just going to have a little bit of a mean reversion. I think the bigger short will come underneath your pre-market lows if it does want to push towards the downside. So my key line in the sand today, as long as we can maintain above really this pre-market low, I like to see continuations towards the upside, preferably above. Now it's going to be this previous day highs for continuation higher. If you look at the NQ, fairly similar thing, right? Just quickly mark this out. If you can get above your previous day highs, you can see some strong price action towards the upside. If you ultimately break underneath your pre-market lows, then potentially you can see a little bit of a bigger move towards the downside, back down in towards really it's going to be this Wednesday's highs. But overall, right now, the markets are back at all-time highs. If you do look at the VIX here now, finally, we're actually dropping. So last week, we had a huge spike in volatility here. VIX actually went closer to 30, even though the markets weren't dropping. So it was going to budge either one way or the other. And now you can see volatility drop. And now the markets are back at all-time highs. So for the VIX, back down at 18, overall indices back at all-time highs. As soon as we drop, yeah, already back at all-time highs. So for the QQQ today, we'll keep an eye out on our all-time highs key pivot level on both the QQQ and the NQ. And then for the ES, similar thing. Next level that we're going to have is going to be this all-time highs key pivot point. So that's where we're going to be looking for the market to gravitate towards now, specifically on the SPY and ES. Okay, now let's go on to, let me actually just go on to the SMH and then we'll go on to the tech names that we have coming into today. So SMH, we talked about this one, semiconductors kind of leading the markets back towards the upside. You can see higher lows are being built. We had a flat top here as well. And then we had this push up in towards our all-time highs. So for SMH, really coming into today now, key levels that we're going to have marked out is this 347. What I personally like to see coming into today is really maintain above this 347 if you want to see any sort of continuation on the semis. Nvidia kind of lagging. You can see the only ticker that was red yesterday. As I mentioned, a couple bad news catalysts kind of pushing this towards the downside. If we break underneath your 347, potentially you could see a little bit of a reversal here on some of the semis. So keep this in mind, right? 347 is going to be key coming into today. All right. Now let me go on to some tech names. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers you'd like me to go over now, you guys can drop them in the chat. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys do have any tickers or any charts, you guys can drop them in the chat. I'll go over them in a bit. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. Let's see if we can get to 200 likes. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list as well, you guys can join that. That one's in the description below. See some of you guys talking about gold. Yeah, I'll talk about gold here in a second. I'll go over some of the tech names on my top watches today, and then I'll take a look at gold a little bit later. First things first, what we have here is Tesla. So Tesla breaking outside of its range that we have. It does seem like it's most likely now just going to wait for earnings. But for Tesla, breaking outside, kind of invalidating this head and shoulders. I like to see a bigger move occur on Tesla, but most likely now it's just going to wait until earnings. Which is going to be Wednesday after close. But this technical setup, I do like a lot, breaking outside of its range. Now we're holding above your 440. Let's see if Tesla can continue towards the upside. So for this ticker, as you can see right here, the key level that we have is just the key level that we have marked out is just your last week's highs. Sorry, your last Friday's highs. And then we also kind of have your last week's key pivot levels as well. So you can see Tesla right off the bat, we had a nice previous day high retest. Just the hold now of your Friday's highs. And now you can see multiple touches here on Tesla. As long as you can maintain above your 442, we like to see this continue push back up and towards your previous day highs and above. Another possible scenario, break above now your previous day highs for continuation. I would be a lot more hands off on Tesla now, just because the IV is going to be elevated due to earnings. So IV yesterday was fairly high. You can see the contracts are really expensive as well, just because it's implying a big move for earnings. So if you do want to trade this intraday, just primarily scalps. And in my opinion, it's probably not going to be worth it just because the contracts aren't going to move as much. So you're just going to wait for after earnings. This is going to happen tomorrow after close. So I'm just going to be personally waiting for Tesla now, and I'll look to trade a potential an after earnings play on Tesla. But strictly speaking, from the higher time frames, this one, in my opinion, does look fairly good. We're breaking outside this key level now. Let's see if we can have that continue push back up and towards our previous pivot point from October the 2nd, and potentially our all-time highs is in play, which is at 488. So keep that in mind moving forward. But we'll talk about Tesla a little bit more once it does have earnings. That's going to be on Wednesday. As for Apple, so yesterday, sorry, just got to clear my throat. But as for yesterday, my top watches were Tesla, Apple, and AMD. As for Apple, we had a couple nice news catalysts in the morning, and we were above our key levels, which was our 256. Essentially, this down close candle that pushed towards the downside. Once we got above this level, nice retest, and we had clear objectives being our all-time highs. Apple ended up having a nice push. So nice push right off that 256. Got above your all-time highs. Once you're able to get above that all-time highs, another nice continued push towards the upside. So for Apple, coming into today, the key levels that we're going to have marked out now is just going to be our previous all-time highs. Let's actually change this color here as well. Not sure why it's doing that. As for Apple, now this is our previous all-time highs, 259. And now we have our actual market, our all-time highs, which is our 264. So coming into today here for Apple, whenever Apple has big moves like this, you expect continuation, but it usually doesn't do too much after it has these pretty big runs. So for Apple, I'm actually not expecting too much today here. The key levels I'm going to have marked out 264 along with our 259. What I like to see for some upside is really the break above our previous day highs for continuation. If we can break above our 264, we could be looking for longs towards the upside. Of course, another possible scenario, kind of this consolidation, potential opening range break for this push back up and towards your previous day highs is in play as well. I would be a little bit more cautious, as I mentioned, just the personality of Apple usually likes to not do as much after it has a pretty big move. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just stick inside of its previous day's range and we have what's called an inside bar day. So I'll be a little bit more cautious on Apple today. We can keep an eye out on the price action within the first 15 to 30 minutes. If it wants to show us some strong price action, then we could be looking for continuation. If we just consolidate, then we want to be a little bit more cautious on Apple coming into today. But these are the levels that I have marked out. As for AMD, another name that had a nice push up and towards our all-time highs. Key levels that we have marked out was really this previous day highs pivot point. So as you can see for AMD, if I was to draw out our Friday's highs, let me kind of just readjust this, but this was our pivot level of Friday's highs from a couple of weeks ago. This is also our previous day highs. We have multiple touches here. So for AMD, kind of tapped in towards our key level, which was our previous day highs. And then we end up having this nice dip and rip for this continuation towards our all-time highs. So coming into today here for AMD, the levels are fairly clear. What we have here is our 240 previous all-time highs. If you can maintain above your previous all-time highs, continuation towards the upside is in play, or above now it's going to be your previous day highs. I would lean a little bit more towards the downside intraday if you can get underneath this 240. But ultimately, AMD bullish here on the higher time frames. What we do have forming is a potential kind of this like flat top break. So for AMD, if we can get a nice break above and hold above this 240, right, we can see a potential nice move towards the upside. If we reject off this area, break back underneath, then you can see we can have a little bit of a mean reversion back lower. So keep this in mind, right? AMD looks good for continuation higher as long as you can maintain above that 240 previous all-time highs pivot point. So AMD most likely going to be one of my main watches coming into today. Let me change this color. Right, as I mentioned, right, hold above your 240 here is going to be key. All right, let's go on to NVIDIA. NVIDIA, nice push yesterday right in towards our key levels, which was that 184.50. This is the exact level where we have multiple rejections off of. So for Nvidia, nice push right in towards that key level, ultimately rejected and came right back towards the downside. Now for Nvidia, it's still going to be the reclaim back above your 184. If you want to see any sort of push higher, reclaim back above for this continuation higher. If you want to see some downside, in my opinion, it's going to be underneath your previous day lows. And potentially you can see now it's going to be your 179.50 here on the higher time frames. Let me actually just grab some water here. Yeah, sorry. For Nvidia key levels today, as I mentioned, 184.50. And then we also have your previous day lows marked out, which is going to be this 181.50 if you want to see any sort of downside. For Nvidia, this one kind of been lagging the overall markets. It's been beaten down with a couple bad news catalysts. So for Nvidia, we'd like to see it above your 184.50 if you want to see any sort of pushback towards upside. As for a few other tickers here, Amazon. So a lot of these ones are starting to curl. I actually do like Amazon a lot, not for like a day trade, but higher time frame. We're bouncing exactly right off a key level, which is our earnings low. So this is the exact area I'd like to see buyers step in, which is your 214. I like to see this kind of slowly push back towards the upside here. Similar with kind of Meta, similar thing, earnings low, right, bouncing off key levels of support. I like to see this push higher. Not for a day trade, but higher time frame, kind of swing, longer term, right? Nice kind of bounce off this 690. Now for Meta, you like to see a reclaim back above your 740 for any sort of pushback towards the upside. So these are the key levels that I have marked out. Meta now, nice push higher at the top of the range here. If you do want to see some more upside above your 740, if it rejects off this level, it's just going to come right back down in towards that 720. So these are the levels that I have marked out. For Google, another one that had this nice push up in towards our all-time highs. Ultimately, the key levels that we have marked out, we can just mark out this high, which is our 257. So coming into today here for Google, you really like to see it above your 256 for any sort of continuation, or now it's going to be above your previous day high. So you like to see it above your 257.59, or now if we can reclaim back above your previous all-time highs, 256.46, you like to see this continue push higher. So those are the names that we have. Really yesterday, we also do have Netflix as well. We end up having a nice push on Netflix. It does have earnings today, but based off the higher time frames, we're just kind of going from range high back down towards your range low. And now you can see for Netflix, most likely just going to gravitate back up and towards your range high to end off before earnings. So for this ticker, yesterday we had a really strong push towards the upside. Key levels that we're going to have marked out is really this key pivot high are 1250. So for Netflix, the key level is going to be this 1250. If we can now break above 1250, hold, potential move up and towards our September 10th highs. But I'll be a little bit more cautious. As I mentioned, this one does have earnings tonight, which is going to affect this drastically. Okay. And for Microsoft, not really doing too much. All right. So coming into today here for the major indices, along with some of these tech names, my favorite watch is actually going to be AMD towards the upside. I like it above our previous all-time highs pivot, which is our 240. Besides that, Tesla, I do like for a technical setup, but it does have earnings tomorrow. So I don't like Tesla just based off that. And then Apple, I don't expect to move unless we have a really strong push within the first kind of 5 to 10 minutes. So I'll be a little bit more cautious on Apple, but my top watch today is going to be AMD. And I'll keep an eye out on these other tickers here as well. So if you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat and I'll go over them for the next kind of 10 to 15 minutes. I should just close this. And that someone's beaming on me. Yeah, what's up, everyone? Hope you guys are doing well. If you guys do have any charts or any tickers, you guys can now drop them in the chat. Let's see. If you guys are enjoying this so far, I appreciate if you guys drop a like. If you guys haven't joined the daily watch list, that of course is in the description below. All right, let's see right here. What's up with Beyond Meat? Yeah, Beyond Meat had it's just been beaten down quite a bit. Now it's a penny stock, so just had a mean reversion, a little bit of a cult name as well. So I think it had a pretty nice move yesterday. um, let's take a could you review the setups taken prior day at the start of these pre-market preps? Yeah, that could potentially be something I could start integrate. I think I also might start doing trade recaps. I think that's what I'm gonna do on my second channel. Let me guys know. Let me know in the comments if you guys would like to see those, like in-depth kind of uh, daily trade reviews. I'm not sure yeah, probably daily trade reviews on my second channel, going over my thought process, my executions, just what I was looking for coming into the day. I used to do those quite a bit. Now I usually do those on the weekend, but I think daily trade reviews are fairly important. Just at least pretty fresh, like right off the mind, and I post them basically as soon as the session ends. Yeah, let me know if you guys want to see those. Okay, let's go into a couple names first. How do you judge if the IV is high for a specific stock? So it's based off the norm. So normally speaking, if the IV is over 100, it is very high. But you also have to compare relatively speaking to your ticker. So something like Tesla or any other names, if the IV is normally high, like around like 70 range to 80 is fairly normal. Sometimes if you're trading much further out the money, the IV is going to be higher, or if you're trading further expiration, it's going to be lower. So there's different ways that IV is calculated, but a good rule of thumb is if it's above 100, then it's very elevated. As for Oracle, this one, we talked about this one yesterday. The key levels that we have marked out was our 292. You can see we broke underneath it. Now we're holding underneath. And now you can see we're gravitating all the way back down in towards our key level of support, which is our 275. So for Oracle here, based off the hourly chart, you can see how key of a level this was. Once we were able to get back above, nice continuation higher. Now we broke underneath it and we just gravitated right back down in towards that October 7th lows. So coming to Oracle, not really too much to talk about. If you can bounce here, potential move back up and towards your previous day highs is in play. If you consolidate, break underneath, potential gap fill, which is all the way back down in towards 260 is in play. But I do expect some buyers to step in right here, which is a very key level. We've already bounced here multiple times, so I do expect some buyers to step in here off this 276. As for some other charts, let's go on to Palantir. So Palantir ranging in between the high and low. Really not too much to talk about here until we can break outside this range. I'll be a little bit more cautious on Palantir. Would like to see now at least a break above your 184 for potential move up and towards this 187. But yeah, I'll be a little bit more cautious here on Palantir. Let's go over Hood. This one's funny. This one, you had some like Hood outages yesterday. Nice kind of bounce though, right off your key pivot level, which was our 133. I realized for all these like markings, it's going to be also a little bit difficult as well because I would have to update them almost on every single ticker. So I might, for the actual drawings or the text, I might just put the actual number so it will be easier instead of having to go back on every single name and then just kind of switch it all around. I think that would be the best. But at least for Hood, the key level that we have marked out is our 133. This is our key pivot low. You can see broke underneath it. Reclaimed it yesterday. We talked about it. If we want to see a hold, kind of hold of this 133 for a push back towards the upside. Nice kind of bounce yesterday on Hood. So coming back. So coming back into today, key levels that we have previous all-time highs along with our 133. You have your potential bounce play off your 133, or now you're going to be looking for really the break above our previous kind of key pivot point, which is your 142. Yeah, so those are the levels I have for Hood coming into today. As for a few other tickers, yeah, IV on OKLO was over 200. Yeah, whenever IV super elevates, just because those names have such big moves as well, that's why you're going to have a lot of elevated IV. You just have to be very careful and understand that if you have super high IV, right? If it doesn't go your way, even if it does go your way, the thing is, you could still lose money, even though if price is rising, right? You can technically lose money because the option premium is so juiced up. All right, as for MU, the key levels I have coming into today is just going to be our last week's key pivot high, which is going to be our 206. If we can maintain above this 206, potentially we can see a pushback up in towards our previous day highs, 214. If we break underneath your 206 and hold underneath your 206, potential gap fill reversal back down in towards this 203. So that's what we have here on MU. Let's go on to a few other tickers here as well. Let me scroll down. Yeah, the second channel, let me link that. I will post that in the description moving forward, but that's just an idea. It seems like you guys would probably like that, so I'll probably start implementing that. Yeah, it's not, those ones are actually pretty they're not that hard to make. They probably only take like 10 to 20 minutes, and the good thing about those ones is you don't have to do any cuts or anything. Just want to say thanks for your analysis. Really helps. Glad you enjoy it. Do you mark out the highs using price action to market open? They're just basically based off higher time frame key pivot points. Already went over Oracle, KO Hood, yes, OKLO. And we go over IWM here. So for IWM, the key level, if we just base off the hourly chart, key level coming into today, just your previous all-time high. So we had a nice kind of continue push, retest, ultimately dropped underneath this key pivot point. Now we're coming right back up and towards your previous all-time high. So for IWM, if you can break above, hold back above your previous all-time highs, potential push back up and towards your 250. If we reject off this level, we're just going to come right back down in towards our previous day's range, back down towards that 256. So for IWM coming into today, keep an eye out on your previous all-time highs along with your previous day lows. As I mentioned above this, we can see continuation, rejection, potential continuation, right back down in towards your previous day lows. Let me go over a couple more here as well. As for SoFi, key level that we have is October 7th. So if we look at this on the hourly chart, similar thing here, kind of ranging. So a lot of these tickers have been just ranging or consolidating. So key level for SoFi, really this key pivot high, I'd consider, right? 29. And we're just going from range low back up and towards your range high, right? Range low, range high. If you do want to see any sort of continuation, break above now, it's going to be this 29 for this continued push back towards the upside. So that's what we have here for SoFi coming into today. Really nice push yesterday, but now right in towards our key level. We'd like to see it above October 7th highs for continuation. Reject off this level, we're just going to come right back down in towards that 2820. Let me just grab some water. Yeah, hopefully my throat, it's always clogged in the morning, but hopefully in the next few days I should be good. All right, let's see. SoFi, Intel. Let's go over Intel. Intel does have earnings on Thursday. This one, consolidation after having a really solid push higher. Key levels that I have marked out on Intel is really this 38 key psych. What I'd like to see now is really this be used as support for potential continuation towards the upside. So for Intel, above your 38, we can see a push up and towards now. It's really going to be this 39 and above. Intel looks good in my opinion. It does have earnings though, kind of similar to Tesla. I'll be a little bit more cautious just because the IV is going to be high. But the key level, as I mentioned, 38 for continuation back towards the upside. Daily trade reviews. Those labels are so helpful. Do you think you could keep them? Yeah, I'll try and I'll try and keep them at least on the main names. At least the names that we primarily look for. At least for the other names, I'll just have those. I'll just have the actual a dollar amount labeled just to make it nice and easy. But at least for the major names, I'll try and keep those ones since those ones are easier. All right. Okay, let me actually go over gold as well. I know some people were talking about that earlier. Gold, a lot of volatility right now, so you can trade this quite a bit. The levels that we talked about yesterday, the potential reclaim for a push back up towards your all-time highs. Sorry. Yesterday for gold, we talked about this one, right? Potential reclaim for push back up and towards your all-time highs. Once we're able to reclaim back above this 42.90, we end up having this nice continued push all the way up and towards your 43.80, which is your all-time highs. And now you can see perfect rejection right off your all-time highs. And now we're pushing back lower. So for gold, this is really, at least yesterday, it was fairly clear for this push up and towards your all-time highs after the reclaim. Now with this rejection, we're also getting back underneath this key pivot point here as well. Now what I like to see is a potential push really back down towards this key level support, which is going to be this 41.80 here. So based off of gold here on the higher time frames, we are still bullish, but it does seem like the momentum now is going to start slowing down after getting back underneath this 42.80. So there's a good chance you'll probably just end up gravitating back down in towards that 41.80 if we do not hold these higher lows. The best long in my position, my opinion now is going to be that reclaim once back again above this 42.80. But I'll be a little bit more cautious. You can see if we go into the lower time frames, right, we end up having this nice break back underneath. And you can see a couple of retests here right off our key level, and now we're staying heavy and continuing back towards the downside. So, right, we're coming towards a key level support. If we can stay heavy, right, potentially we can see some more downside here if we keep these up close candles. And we use these as resistance for potential move back down in towards this key level, which is going to be this 41.90 here. Alrighty, let me go on to my game plan coming into today, and then I'm going to get ready for market open. So today here, the game plan is keeping an eye out on the reaction that we have off your previous all-time highs. So for yesterday, nice push up and towards your all-time highs key level. Today, we're going to keep an eye out on this 612.50. As I mentioned, if we reject off this level, we can expect it to come right back in between its previous day's range. The way I like longs is primarily either the consolidation break above for a push higher, or now it's going to be the break right off the bat above your previous day highs for this continued push towards the upside. So keep an eye out on this 612.50 here. I'm open to playing both sides. I'd much rather see the SPY now gravitate back up and towards your all-time highs. As for the SPY chart, key level, in my opinion, is going to be your 670. Wednesday's highs of last week. We like to see either the break above your previous day highs or right the hold of your 670 for this continued push back towards upside. So this is what we have for SPY coming into today. Exact same thesis on the SNNQ as well. My top watch is going to be AMD. So coming into this morning, with the Qs back at all-time highs, with a couple of these names already having pretty solid moves yesterday, AMD is a name to keep an eye out on. If we can reclaim back above that 240, potentially we can see this continuation higher, or there's a potential we could see a reversal here on AMD. So that's what you have to keep in mind as well. But AMD is going to be my top watch coming into today for potential continuation higher. Besides that, I do like Tesla, but it does have earnings on Wednesday, so I'm going to be a little bit more hands off. As for Apple, similar kind of thing. We already had such a nice push yesterday. Whenever Apple's up like 4%, which is a huge move for Apple, like over $10 on the underlying, usually the next day it doesn't do too much. So I'm not expecting much on Apple today, but the key level is going to be either the reclaim back above your previous day close, or we're going to be looking for the break above your previous day high. So we'll still keep an eye out on Apple. Google, kind of right at your previous all-time highs. Nvidia, if you can break above your previous day highs now. And then for everything else, I would be a little bit more cautious on the actual best looking names now are Amazon, right? Meta looks good if you can get above your 738, right? Names that we don't normally look for as much actually look a lot better than some of the semis and Tesla. So you can keep an eye out on Amazon. This one's above your previous day highs for potential either the reclaim back above your 217, or now it's going to be the break back above your right 218.50 on this ticker. And then at least for the other names, Oracle right at a key level support. I'm going to quickly go through over these ones. Yeah, a lot of these ones actually, I don't really see too many higher time frame setups, to be honest. Even though the QQQ is at all-time highs, it does seem like quite a bit of names are lagging behind. So I'm going to be a little bit more cautious today. I'll see what kind of sets up. We do have Netflix earnings starting tonight. we do have Tesla earnings starting tomorrow. So we'll see if there's any sort of setups after earnings on a couple of these ones. But basically today, we'll keep an eye out on AMD. We'll have alerts set on a few other tickers. And then primarily, we're just going to keep an eye out on these SPY and Qs because it seems like the SPY and Qs had the nicest moves really the past week ever since we had that drop with potential tariffs, right? The SPY and Qs and the overall indices have been moving the nicest. Not as much tech movement just because now there was more volatility, right? A couple of these higher time frames didn't look as good here on the tech side. So based off of just kind of the intraday price action lately, it seems like SPY and Qs are more likely the better names to look for potential opportunities than some of these tech names unless we have a news catalyst or we have some sort of higher time frame setup. So AMD is really the only thing I'm somewhat interested in. And then really the rest of the names are going to be on the back burner. I'm most likely just going to keep an eye out on the SPY and Qs coming to market open. SPY potential push up and towards our all-time highs, and the Qs key level is going to be our all-time highs. All right. Let's read the chat. Daily recaps would be great. Yes. Second channel. I'll post it tomorrow. I'll post the link or I'll have it in the description. Great video. The best part was the text from your dad. Congrats to him and you. Appreciate that, David. It's a great video. Let's see dollar amount. Anyone know if the brokers? Yeah, the brokers are back up. Can you go over how to choose option contracts on your other? Yeah, I'll go over the other channel will be for other topics that I don't touch up on the main channel. Yeah, that is going to be it for me today. As I mentioned, for the SPY and Qs, we'll see if we can gravitate up and towards this all-time highs here on SPY today. It's going to have to get above your all-time highs here on the Qs. If SPY wants to gravitate back higher, as I mentioned, AMD probably going to be the main. It's going to really be the only thing I'm interested in today, unless we can get a lot of relative strength on a couple of these other names. Tesla, I'll be a little bit more patient on, as I mentioned, with earnings coming up. And then Netflix has earnings coming up as well, so I'd be a little bit more cautious. But yeah, it seems like I don't see too much, but we'll see what kind of shapes up coming to market open. Most likely just going to wait for the kind of that first 50 minutes to play out. And then I will see if there's any sort of relative strength or any relative weakness on some of these tickers. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you guys did enjoy that. If you did, appreciate it if you guys drop a like. And if you guys haven't joined the watches, of course, that one's in the description below. And then I will see you guys all tomorrow. All right. Take care, everyone. Peace.